At the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Oh my goodness. Tuesday, May 30th. We got all kinds of graphics. It's a graphical explosion today. We're underwater in the Sea Lab 2023 in honor of White Gladys, the leader of the killer pack of killer whales that's been sinking ships off the coast of Spain. We're happy that the killer whales are finally living up to their name. We'll talk about that. Animal intelligence. We'll probably talk about artificial intelligence. We'll talk about sci-fi. We'll talk about, and maybe even Star Trek. Who knows? So let's bring in your host and mine, our good pal Larry Young. Hey, Captain Fun.
Dan, good to see you.
What's happening, buddy?
I'm very excited to be here today on Serious Star Trek, where we can speak seriously about Star Trek.
And I understand that you brought a guest along with you today.
I did. Dr. Price couldn't show today. He's off planet doing something. And so I wore my Strange New Worlds suit because he hates Strange New Worlds, but I had to mix it up and put a little Vulcan IDIC thing on there. So I'm from the Intrepid, I guess. Hey, but the guest I brought with me is our friend, Hollywood big shot producer, Rick Austin.
Hollywood big shot, Rick. Hey, Rick.
I hope you take that in the way I mean it, man. I mean that with all the love in the world. Sometimes people
who doesn't love being introduced as a Hollywood big shot.
Yeah.
I don't have a Star Trek uniform, but I have a T-shirt that's vaguely Star Trekky. Yeah, so I threw it on in 10 seconds to honor you.
It's pretty good, man. I actually thought it was. I thought it was legit for a second behind the scenes.
It's got the V-neck kind of like
perfect.
Like. So I went V-neck. I went classic terrorist look post 9/11. If you remember this guy getting dragged out of bed.
Oh yeah, was he the shoe bomber? No, he was the guy one of the plotters of 9/11.
One of the big wigs for sure.
It was kind of rude to wake him up out of a sound sleep.
Poor guy. I really felt for him. Who hasn't been there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have a lot of sympathy for that. You know what's really cool? Chris Sagasag is like, "Yay, it's Rick." I'm sure he's not fooling. And Dave Porter, can I tell Dave Porter he made us a super secret props? I don't know if we can talk about it. I'll let it go. He did the cool Desilu arrowheads. He designed a really neat tribute to Lucille Ball and Desilu, and they're out for delivery, but they didn't make it in time for the show.
Oh, okay.
So definitely next week we will be. So thanks, Dave. David. I don't know. I have this problem with folks I meet on the internet, and I just immediately, he's a Dave to me. And does he go by David? Is that just? We have a friend, Russ Francis Smith, and his Facebook is R Francis, but old guys know his Russ, and other guys call him Frank. But none of that is his Facebook handle, right? So it's like Hector Gonzalez, who's showing up, is going to call you NoHo Rick. Why? I don't know. He keeps trying to make fetch happen, and it's like, yeah, we get it, but that's kind of a minimum effort nickname, right? Hey, look. Oh, what?
It's from Barry.
Oh, my kid needs to yell from the other room that it's from Barry. Thank you.
It's from Barry.
We know.
Listen, I'm really happy.
Yeah, come say hi.
I'm super happy because we can get a little inside info. Walker. We can get a little inside info on the strike, which is another topic we've been trying to cover a little bit. I'm pretty interested in it, and I'm wondering how it's affecting Hollywood big shot Rick.
Yeah, you know how it's affecting me is like, I have a little company called Headquarters, and we're constantly taking out like unscripted programming ideas. And we sort of thought like, oh, the scripted programming is on hold, so there's going to be a feeding frenzy of stuff that I do. And that's not the case, really. It seems like Hollywood is just like kind of shut down right now a little bit. Everybody's in this like weird, like, let's see how it shakes out mode.
Yeah.
And the writers and the studios are all kind of like dancing around each other, like who's going to blink first. But I mean, I 100% support the writers in this situation. We've got, I live right near CBS Radford Studios, and they're down there marching. I just drove by them. They're down there marching right now, and they're I know a ton of writers who are out of work right now, and when they are working, they're not getting paid enough, and everything seems to flatten out. Like they deserve more money. There's no production in this town without writers coming up with the ideas.
Well, and then they're really getting screwed on the streaming angle, right?
Yeah, completely.
And what I've read too is that there's now it's more and more writers' rooms instead of being you got a big room, you got 20 episodes. They're like, we got 7, and maybe you're going to get together and write 3 in a mini room as a sort of a pilot or a pitch thing, and then you don't get paid your full bit for that. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean the studios are still sinking massive amounts of money into these series, but they're making 10 episodes instead of 26 because then they can have higher production value per episode, make it premiere television or prestige television. But the writers, are getting broken off into these little mini writers' rooms and not making enough to live on for what they do. And it's just, it's an untenable situation where it can't go on like this. Streaming is a whole new world for everybody. And the problem is like nobody, the studios are not making money streaming right now because they're taking it as a kind of a loss leader for 5 years.
Right.
Because that's where they know the future is. So even when obviously Netflix is making money because they were the first. They're not making nearly as much as they used to. Even companies like Disney Plus or Paramount Plus, who are the 2 of the biggest leaders out there and making programs that many millions of people are watching, they can't figure out how to make it profitable. And they're figuring out maybe it'll end up being profitable because it has to be. But in the meantime, nobody's getting paid, So,
that's a little wild.
The thing about the Lord of the Rings show that Netflix did, they said that only 38% of the people finished it who started it. So you can't do $150 million an episode or whatever insane amount of money they spent and have people kind of go, we'll get to it when we can. But part of that is the coronavirus, right? Like everybody's habits changed instantly. And so that's how Netflix got all the money, because they had sort of something in process already that was adaptable to the situation. And so I just think that this is going to be just a dumpster fire, because the guys that are making all the money are going to never give it up, even a half point. Like, why would you do that? We're making all the money. We'll get some other asshole.
To me, the only way you make money in this scenario is you're a big studio and you have a huge library of content that you just it's already paid for. You own it. It's locked up, and it's good enough that people want to pay to continually see it. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, like I just was reading this morning about an article about how the about dozen movies that Disney Plus just dropped from their catalog today or this week. And I assumed it was going to be movies they're just licensing, but it's not. It's the original movies that they've made. Like some of it was movies that ended up on Disney Plus because of COVID, and they weren't going to get a theatrical release. And other stuff was like made for Disney Plus, like Stargirl or Hollywood Stargirl, like these original movies that they made to build up their content libraries that nobody's watching. But they're going to save money by cutting them because it's not like they've made them and then own them forever. I think they still have to pay residuals and still have to pay licensing fees. Yeah. And there's still ongoing monies that have to be dedicated to these things. So it makes more sense for them to just drop stuff that not too many people are watching anymore, which is a shame for these people, because there's literally no other way to see that stuff. There's no physical product.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
Yeah.
terrible. And you can only watch Escape from Witch Mountain like so many times on Disney Plus, right? It's like their old stuff is dated to a certain degree, and there's just this continual hunger for new stuff.
But think about this, right? I mean, in the old days, it doesn't matter, right? Like, okay, you write some jingle that shows up once every 20 years and you get a check for 7 cents each year in royalties, and haha, isn't that funny, right? But like at some point, it costs them more to even just have that sitting in a whatever, a server that it is on, right? The electricity costs more than what the thing earns in residuals in a year or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the only reason you would take it off, right?
I think 10 years from now, 5 years from now, these streaming services like Max, formerly HBO Max, or Disney Plus, like their libraries are going to be much more self-contained and much more. It's not going to be like everybody was trying to become the next Netflix, which is like, we have everything, millions of hours of content. And who is actually watching these millions of hours of content? I always get excited. Like, you had to re-sign up for Max when it became Max from HBO Max. And so the way that I had to re-sign up, I lost all of my favorites and I had to go back into the library and like pick all the shit I would maybe watch again.
Those are idiots.
I know. It was like so complicated to figure out how to like re-sign up. And so I had to go back into the library and pick all the stuff that I would ever watch again and make my big list. So I picked all these movies. And then on the next day I looked at it and I was like, 90% of this crap that I just picked, these movies and series, I'm never going to watch. So I don't think people are realizing they don't actually need a streaming service that's got millions of hours of content they'll never watch.
Do you remember when we were kids and HBO was like the best thing ever?
Yeah.
Well, we were kids like 2/3 of our lives ago. So in that span of decades, HBO became synonymous with high quality programming and event television. It's not TV, it's HBO, right?
Yeah.
You hear that hum and you're like, oh, it's HBO, right? And I'm big fans of brands and logos and design and shit like that. And how in fucking God's name did David Zaslav go, let's just change it to this generic Max thing?
Yeah. Like all of a sudden,
the dumbest
it was insane.
The worst thing ever.
Since the Netflix Quickster debacle, right? Like nonsense.
As a guy whose comic book company ended up being called AIT/Planet Lair, like I think I know stupidity when I see it. And what it is Zaslav's having a midlife crisis, and he thinks somehow this is 100% ego. And he's like, we're changing it. Fuck HBO. I was not responsible for that. People are going to remember HBO. This is the new fucking Discovery thing right on fucking Max.
So let's name it something so generic that it has no meaning, and in fact is confusing with other cable outlet. I thought this was Skinamax,
exactly. Right. Like it has that baggage of Cinemax being HBO's like poor little stepchild, where that has the late night titty movies.
Slutty cousin.
This move only loses subscribers. It doesn't. There's nothing about it that someone goes, oh, now it's Max and they've dropped a lot of content. I'm in, right? Like nobody's doing that. So this was.
I don't think people understood that it actually meant there was going to be more content on there because they're adding the whole Discovery Plus. And I thought that maybe this whole naming debacle had something to do with you can't call it HBO anymore because the people at Discovery will only let their content be in there if it's not branded HBO.
That's believable.
So, we're going to call it HBO Discovery? No, that's way too fucking long. Are we, they've already, I think, tried every combination of HBO something. HBO Go, HBO One, HBO Plus, HBO Premiere, HBO, we're done. We can't call HBO anything else.
They should have talked to me. Disco Hobo. Everybody's going to turn into that. Do what you
They were
want.
my favorite. They are still, I think, my favorite of the streaming services, the one that I turn to the most. But they've started, but this move, and then also a lot of content cuts that they just made.
Yeah.
They chopped half their Looney Tunes library. My kids are devastated. I'm in a.
Oh yeah, I had all the Looney Tunes stuff.
They cut the best ones too, like really the later half of the season. So you only get the really early, like racist stuff all the way, up through like a couple of good Chuck Jones, and then the majority of all the good stuff is just not there anymore.
I think they cut the Popeye, those really old racist Popeye cartoons I love.
Oh.
The black and white ones.
Those are the best.
I think they don't have those anymore. The one that they really had to put a disclaimer at the beginning going like, okay, this was made a long time ago. Watch this knowing that there's going to be big natives going like dubba dubba and like Japanese cliches because we're fighting the Japs in World War II. But there's still
I like those though. The disclaimer. I thought that was a really graceful way of solving.
Yeah.
Because no one has any common sense to know that yourself. Like, hey, this crazy racist stereotype is because those were the bad guys when this was made.
That stuff's going to disappear from common like ability to find it. Luckily, a lot of that stuff is public domain too. Even a lot of early Warner Brothers and a ton of those Fleischer Popeyes and of course the Supermans and stuff.
The Supermans I just bought. I just bought them.
Oh yeah.
All those, what are they? The Max Fleischer, yeah. Just came out like totally like remastered.
Yes.
And I ran into it on iTunes and I'm like, $19 for all those? I'm in, because those are the kind of things that I need forever. Because I will want to watch those. And I'll be 95 years old and have dementia, and I will still want to know that I can watch a Superman match.
My favorite thing about those Fleischer Superman cartoons,
that's great,
is Superman doesn't really fly.
Yeah,
he jumps pretty much. He pretty much jumps he never hovers. Right? He can't hover. He can he seems like he's flying, but it's always like a jump. It just has such a visceral feeling.
He kind of did what Hulk did in the Ang Lee Hulk movie. It's like
really like
jumps really far.
Yeah, really stuff.
Well, did you watch the show when you were a kid, Dan? Because he leaps tall buildings in a single.
Oh bound. yeah. No, of course it's in the title, but they never. They don't like now. It's just like Flash and Superman. They've taken both those characters and they made their powers like magical.
Yeah,
and put them so like, oh, Flash, are you kidding me? He's faster than the speed of light because he has the magical speed force, and it's like.
Yeah,
I really love it when they ground those things in the laws of physics and like Superman.
Like Superman, the gravity is like ridiculous, like it'd be us on the moon.
Yes,
Superman, that makes sense. Yeah, that's why I'm not going to bash the Snyderverse too much, but all of the magical ways that emo Superman could like stop in midair and then like reverse course and fly through 75 buildings and then stop, and like all of that stuff because you can do it with modern special effects kind of doesn't mean you should sometimes.
Yeah, and they've way overpowered those guys to the point where they make the characters like, I don't know, they're not as fun to me. Larry and I argue back and forth, and I go, period piece Superman is the way that we need a Depression era Superman film.
Yeah,
I know. I'm all for the that kind of thinking, and I think that it'll never happen because, like, I would like Quentin Tarantino a couple of days ago just said, don't cast a brand new like unknown James Bond and reinvent him to be Jason Bourne again. Just go back and make the James Bond books one by one faithfully.
There you go.
As period pieces, and I'm like, I would sign up for that in a minute.
They'd be great.
They'll never do it in a million years because retro shit, period piece stuff doesn't make enough money to, you could make a period.
Nobody's buying Perry Mason action figures now, right?
I don't think anybody
that's what drives that.
I think that's a kind of percent, but then you can point to multiple period pieces that are humongous hits. So like, there's no,
Yeah.
you can't, it's,
But franchise hits, can you?
Yeah, like Man from Uncle was a great idea to give it to what's his name, Mr. Madonna,
Guy Ritchie.
And Mr. Madonna, and
It sounds like a song, Mr. Madonna.
Mr. Madonna, make that Man from Uncle, and go back and make it as a period piece, but just like a modern looking period piece.
yeah.
And 5 people went to see it. So.
But nobody knows Man from Uncle. I'm sorry, in this country anyway, it's not a huge. Like,
can I say though, that movie is great. I would watch 15 of those movies. I saw it in the theater, but that's kind of proving your point, right? Yeah. Hey, let's get all the 60-year-olds to go see this cool shit. It's like,
and that's
the nerd. Yeah. But it's not the period piece that stops it. It's got to just be a good movie. So I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's the eternal Star Trek argument too, right? Is like they're making the reason they greenlight something like Star Trek Discovery is they're making Star Trek for the modern audience that doesn't like Star Trek, which is an oxymoron or whatever.
Well, I don't get why you would do that, right? If you want to make Star Trek for people who don't like Star Trek, that's great. It's like The Expanse or something, right? Just call it something different.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
anyway.
Okay, Rick, let me ask you this. You're a Hollywood mogul. No, you're a Hollywood big shot. And who do you like? What do you like that's outside of the big what creators, or like there's so many like internet creators and things and different ways people are putting stuff out there. Is there anything in particular that like really pulls you in?
You mean like YouTube kind of content?
Yes.
Oh, God, I'd have to think about that. You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
How about Grace? Does she like stuff?
Yes.
Walker will not. He'll watch every time a Dude Perfect drops, or Hot Ones, or
Hot Ones. The Hot Ones is great. I actually did a pilot for I did the pilot for Hot Ones, the game show.
Oh, you did? That's cool.
Yeah. Which was really fun. I never really thought it should have been a game show, but I did the pilot anyway because I wanted to meet those guys, and it was fun to just like make normal people eat crappy like hot sauce. But I think I love the way it works as an interview show.
Oh my God, it's perfect.
Because there's something going on that's just fun to watch these people lose their minds and their composure. But it's also just a great interview show.
The thing I love most about that is it's the highest stakes, low stakes thing imaginable, right?
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes where a good idea like that, it depends on the celebrity, right?
Yeah.
If it's a good interview or not. But this one's almost bulletproof because they're doing the same thing. First, Sean's a great interviewer. Like, give it to him.
Yeah.
And,
he's good. He's really good.
But it humanizes everybody, whoever's on, a sports figure, a celebrity, whatever. It's like everyone has the experience of eating something they thought was like way too hot for them, right? And these people are doing it on purpose for our entertainment. Like, there's no one that watches that and doesn't enjoy it.
Well, Rick, there's a guy I want to put on your radar. If you haven't seen his stuff already, you gotta look. I keep pushing him on this show because I just feel like this guy's going to be a breakout in. He could be in mainstream. He's worked in mainstream Hollywood, but now he's a Patreon guy and he's putting out his own stuff. His name's Ian Hubert. And he is doing there's something called Dynamo Dream. I want everybody to watch Star Trek. You have got to go watch. There's 3 episodes out, and they're short films made by one guy. He did all of the special effects and visual effects himself. He also stars in it, writes it, does the music, and it looks like you wouldn't expect they spent less than millions and millions of dollars on this thing just looking at it. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it's so Ian Hubert. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's so incredible what you can do with the technology that exists to operate on your laptop today. That you can get feature film quality effects if you know what you're doing.
And if you don't, yeah, look, this show is a perfect example of that.
I know. I mean, that opening title sequence is a smorgasbord of amazing things flying at your face.
Well, it's like now there's so much high quality free software available, like video editing software. DaVinci Resolve is
DaVinci Resolve is a great tool, and I got to learn it because it's free and it can do so much kind of compositing and
it's better than Premiere. It's better
than Premiere, I'm told. And Premiere's good, really good. I taught myself Premiere, just to cut some dumb stuff for myself. I work on Avid mostly. Just because that's still kind of the industry standard for the kind of stuff that I do, just because it works better with multicam shows and things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And works better it works in a lot of what we do is like somebody will be editing something and then sharing it on a server so that 5 different people can be editing the same project.
Yeah. DaVinci, I think that's how they make their money is they sell a bunch of like back office stuff for like big guys like you, budget and multiple people working. They sell extra tools. Yeah,
DaVinci is a company that I knew from 20 years ago was really just about color correction.
Yes.
So DaVinci, my old understanding of a DaVinci is this giant console that the color corrector has 75 knobs and he's going like and making it look like Game of Thrones or whatever you want it to look like,
Well, the color grading, just on the free DaVinci Resolve is like, wow, it's a mind blower.
Yeah.
And then things like Blender, I don't know, that's my passion, and it is just it's the greatest piece of software I've ever experienced using. It's just like it's mind blowing that it even exists, let alone that's free.
I know it's sort of the democratization of technology, so that anybody can become a content creator on a level that is watchable by an actual audience that doesn't, is pretty amazing. You were talking about content creators that I might be into. I just stumble on them because my 14-year-old girl watches people who she just goes down all kinds of rabbit holes on YouTube and bumps into things and just starts watching them. There's a comedian dude called Man Carrying Thing. Do you know this guy? Just go look up Man Carrying Thing. Just a dude who makes these like 2-minute little commentaries, little short films where he plays both characters. That kind of of like, hi, how you doing? I'm good. And he's both guys. And it's always like he made one yesterday about how stupid the HBO Max thing is. And it's like 58 seconds long and nails everything that's stupid about it in a dumb conversation between 2 executives. And they're both him. And it's hilarious just because he's a dumb looking dude who's got comic chops just doing it in his bedroom.
Yeah, the guy who does Pitch Meeting. There's a show called Pitch Meeting that's similar to that. It's always like pitching a movie, and it's one guy talking to himself. Great stuff. Yeah, and I've taken all of I cut my Paramount subscription. I'm cutting down on all my subscriptions, and I'm taking that money and I put it into Patreon, and I'm supporting individual creators that I love. The other one I want to recommend to everybody out there, Captain Disillusion, he does those, you see an internet video and he'll debunk it as a hoax. It's like usually special effects, but he's a special effects expert and he breaks down like the alpha channel problems and everything. But the amount of production he puts into it, it's like a Bill Nye the Science Guy, and like his special effects and his are impeccable, really just amazing. And the world we live in is really starting to happen. It's starting to fulfill that promise of a new media world that's not just strangled by IP holding behemoth corporations.
Yeah, completely. And I don't think that the behemoth corporations know quite what to do with these people yet.
That's right. Well, and they are not clamoring. They are no longer clamoring to them because they're not the gatekeepers that they were before. Now you can get a bigger audience going to YouTube and monetize them directly with no middlemen.
Yeah, so they don't need networks or streaming services other than just YouTube, and they're not going like this. This is my springboard to getting on network television.
No way.
Or less. They're just looking at, I need a certain number of followers. I need a certain number of views so that I can become monetized. And then they're off to the races. If they can continue to build their viewers without anybody in the middle, then the potential is ridiculous. It's endless for some of these people to become multi-millionaires like almost overnight if they have a great idea and execute it well and can continue to generate content.
I think I'm making $1 a month off of you, Rick. I believe that you are a subscriber to this very channel. And if you're watching this channel, you too can be one. Just click that subscribe button down there on YouTube.
You could make this man a millionaire. $1 at a time.
$1 at a time. We're going to get there. By my calculations, I'm going to be there roughly by the time light speed travel has been created. So we're be just in time for me to buy that FTL drive I want.
Hey, Rick, could I ask you a question about that? Actually, just like at the experiences that you had, like the Hollywood thing is like, there's only so many people that can get a movie made, and so why would YouTube people even give a shit at all? Because going through that whole process where you're like, there's a million reasons to say no, and one to say yes, but all the planets have to align and everybody has to be facing the same way, and it has to be a Tuesday. Like none of that happens if you're like, well, I can just do this cool thing and put it up and then see what happens.
And I don't have to take anybody's $160. You're well on your way.
That's pretty good, I gotta tell you.
And they don't have to take notes from any dumbass executives.
Right. Nothing gets watered down. It's their ideas from their brains to yours. Yeah, it's what I loved about independent comics. It's like now I have to learn Blender, apparently, according to Dan.
Yeah. YouTube had this YouTube Originals department that was trying to make like actual shows. And I got hired to do this New Year's Eve show with them. And we involved a lot of their biggest creators to create little New Year's Eve kind of versions of what they do, like Mr. Beast or the D'Amelios or all of the like super high-end guys. And that was a real learning experience for me because that's where I really realized that those people don't give a shit about television.
They don't care.
Right, because they would send their thing to us whenever they felt like it, not giving a damn about our deadlines, and then didn't want to hear one note. Like, sorry, that's all the time I got to do your dumb thing. I'm doing my thing. No notes. I'm done.
Wow. How was that received by the other producers?
We were warned going in that I did it with this company, Fremantle, and it was a little bit of a nightmare, but the nightmare really wasn't the content creators because most of we basically just gave them parameters. Can you make it like 2 minutes long or 4 minutes long and tell us what the concept is, because part of it is we wanted it to feel like Mr. Beast or whatever. We didn't want to go like, here is your script that we wrote to sound like Mr. Beast. It's just like, do your thing, make it New Year's,
Sure.
And so, but it was a real eye opener. It's like, because the assumption on a lot of these, you make these network shows and things or these award shows or whatever, and inevitably the social media stars come up into the conversation, and it's always with the assumption that we're throwing them a bone by letting them be on network television. And they could care less.
Right.
I don't blame them. The whole landscape is just completely changing. There may not even be 10 years from now. Maybe there won't even be network television.
I think we're on the cusp of that.
I think you're right. 100%.
We're on the cusp of a cable collapse, especially because of the they've lost so many viewers, and so many of those channels survive on the carrier fees. Even that the cable companies like pay CNN sometimes. Pay them because we're not a cable company unless we got CNN on our channel, for instance, but Fox and etc. And as their ratings have tanked and cratered, and those deals are all coming up for renewal, it's going to be just a completely different landscape, and I love it, frankly.
and we all, we're all consuming content differently. Oh, I wanted to bring up to steer this serious Star Trek show towards Star Trek, just slightly, because you promised me we were going to talk about Star Trek today. Two things I want to talk about.
All right.
Speaking of streaming services, do you guys? I've been watching Pluto TV.
Mhm.
You guys know this?
Yeah, I got a week at Pluto. Yeah, love it.
I love it. I had no idea. I'm late to the party.
One day Walker was staying home from school. He was sick.
Yeah.
And I got the idea. It's like, dude, we have the fucking sum total of human broadcast production. Let's fucking do it. He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, for one, we were talking about Hogan's Heroes. And he's like, I can't believe this show even exists.
Oh, it's the
I'm
greatest.
like, not just that, it's awesome. And guess what? I've never seen the first episode. And we were watching it. And then that started the day. It's like, I've never seen the first episode of Gilligan's Island, pal. And then we got to Wild Wild West, and it was all over. He was like, I don't want to watch black and white stuff. And
yeah,
like,
you know what I love about
now that's good.
What I love about Pluto TV is it kind of they're streaming channels. So it reminded me of the old days of watching Star Trek, because there's a Star Trek streaming channel, not just like here are all the episodes, pick one. Because I always gravitate, I've got them all on Blu-ray, and I always gravitate to watching my favorites over and over and over.
All right.
And now I turn on the Star Trek channel on Pluto, and Is There in Truth No Beauty is on, or something, some third season episode that kind of sucks.
All right.
But you drop
Private Little War or something.
Private Little War,
yeah.
Or the Cloud Minders, and like ones that are like, even bad Star Trek episodes are good. Even Spock's brain is good.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
And you drop in the middle of one, and you're caught in the middle of a scene you haven't seen in 10 years because you didn't bother to ever stream that one again. And you're like, it reminds me of watching Star Trek on Channel 11 in 1975, when you just turn it on when you got home from school, and you'd be 32 minutes into an episode and you'd still watch it, And the commercial, it's about the commercial breaks that are good.
Yeah.
Like experiencing it the way people experienced it in 1967, where it's like, end of Act 4. Now take a break and go make a sandwich, because we're going to show some dumb commercials for 3 minutes and then come back. That's how they intended it,
Right.
And there's something about that experience that I just love on Pluto TV.
Can we bring back Hogan's Heroes, but set it at Guantanamo Bay and make the Americans be the Nazis and just flip the whole thing on its head, bringing like Lindy England? Remember that chick?
And make all the Americans those like lovable, dim-witted, just like, that's what I loved about Hogan's Heroes, was like the Nazis were kind of huggable.
That's what started our conversation. I was like, all the guys who played the mean Nazis were like pleasant people, and like they were all Jews. And he's like, how did that even happen? And I'm like, well, it went into the whole conversation about like the Mel Brooks thing of like, the only way you deal with that ultimate evil is just cut the nuts off with jokes. It's really the only thing you can do. And they did it great. But so I told them about Schultz going, the guard is like, I don't know. I know nothing. And he's like, okay, I got to watch that show.
Reminds me of the Patterns of Force episode where Shatner and Nimoy, two Jews, have to dress up like Nazis.
Oh yeah, huh?
For an entire episode, and they were not too happy about it. Apparently,
that was their job that week, right?
Yeah,
and they can't say anything about it.
You're Nazis. It's like, I thought this was a space show, guys.
All right, well, you want the Quentin Tarantino? Oh no, he wanted to do a piece of the action. Sorry, he was going to redo a piece of the action. What do you think about that? I
got so excited when I heard Quentin Tarantino wants to do Star Trek, and I'm like, fantastic! He's going to do what he did for blaxploitation and martial arts movie. He's going to do that for Star Trek. Fucking great! And he's like, I want to do a piece of the action. I was like, really, man?
I'm not sure that Quentin gets what makes Star Trek Star Trek. I think he just like would have turned it into like retro fun, like the same way that like he made in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
I was just gonna
He
say,
made-
I
he
think he
made
gets
those
it.
episodes. Yeah,
I think he gets it because of that.
He would
The
get-
stuff.
I think
did
he
in
would get
those
the
movies.
idea of how to make like a retro feeling Star Trek movie feel fun in a very 60s kind of way, but it would all be about the like retroness of the television-ness of it.
Yeah, you're right.
Not a real
Yeah.
Star Trek show or movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little fetishize
Yeah.
Spock's ears a little bit in there, get some foot action happening. I think that there's still a chance we'll see it, because while he is working on his last theatrical feature, he said, like, after that though, I will work in TV. Like, so he actually has a deal for a TV series that's gonna be coming out.
Oh wow!
At some point, but then, like, can you imagine just writing and doing other, like, it would be awesome.
Decides to write a Star Trek episode.
That's what I mean.
I always thought he should have. I thought that somebody should greenlight Fox Force 5.
Yes, I agree with that.
Make that as a show. Make
That's
that
a show. Yes,
as a late 80s female-centric Charlie's Angels with Kung Fu show.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I will. I'll greenlight it. Where do I sign? That's.
I mean, if you went in and pitched that to friggin' Amazon Prime, why would they not buy?
They would.
10 episodes of it.
Even if he just produced it, they probably would. Well, so Rick, we got Hollywood strike, okay?
Yeah.
They're striking against AI. Larry hates talking about AI, but it's just
there's nothing new.
No, there's
man.
new every day. There's new stuff. That's what's so wild about
this.
But
the underlying philosophy, there's nothing new to say about it. Like, great, this one, it's purple today. Oh, look at this. They did a thing called Gandalf. You're supposed to solve something in 6 levels. Yawn.
We know what Old Man Captain Fun thinks, but I don't want to know what Hollywood Big Shot thinks. And I don't know. Do you think now all this hemming and hawing, like, this could be a time when producers start going, well, what? I can't hire a writer. Maybe I give this a try, and they start generating AI scripts.
Yeah, it reminds me of that scene in The Player with where do you remember that shitty old movie with
Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins.
Peter, what's his name? Can't remember anybody's name. Remember the good-looking studio executive cuts the writer out of the creative process and just like, hey, it writes itself, you know, like
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Okay.
No, I gotta go back and see that.
Okay, kids, go watch The Player tonight and you'll know what I'm talking about. No, but I think that I'm not too worried about it right now. I don't think it's possible. I don't think the technology is at a place where they can start AI generating pilot scripts that will be anything other than
super bland.
Yeah, just like
formulaic, right?
They'll end up like the Seinfeld Twitch episodes. You know what I mean? They'll be just, it'll be they'll look like they make sense when they're on a piece of paper because there are words and the character name is above the words, but then like you'll actually read it and go like, this makes no sense because it's just a melange of algorithmic bullshit. But let them go try to do that. Let them go try to do that.
No. I can change the subject immediately because
I won't, Gons. I won't.
No. But we're done because Rick Osted is here.
Yes,
the writer producer of MTV's Big Picture Special Edition, the Star Trek logs. You have to talk about this.
Did we not talk about this ever?
Not
when
really.
you were on last time, we just
talked
said,
about it
like that was a credit.
Yeah, we talked about it like in the green room, and we didn't really.
We need like the full on behind the scenes DVD commentary someday. Like you and me just going, I remember we wrote this when Ron Jeremy was at the Marie Callender's on Thanksgiving Day. Remember that?
How long is the piece in total?
It's an hour-long special that was basically Larry and my scam to get Paramount to let us make our own Star Trek episode. I mean, here's the backstory. I worked at this show called The Big Picture. We did movie reviews with Chris Connolly on MTV. And every once in a while, we would do a movie special, a whole hour on Dances with Wolves, or I did one on Total Recall. And we had a good relationship with Paramount because Paramount did Dances with Wolves. And so when Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country was coming out, it was like, I knew they had money in their budget to spend on something on MTV. And we pitched them the idea of, I wrote up this treatment like, what if the Next Generation, like Spock had just been on the Next Generation. And I was like, what if there's a situation where the Enterprise is in dry dock and Spock was just on that episode, and Counselor Troy is curious about the former crew of the Enterprise because Spock was just around. So she goes and logs into the data banks of the Enterprise D and goes and pulls up all these logs, and that's our way to like go show old Star Trek clips. Yeah, so it was a dumb way to shoot some segments on the bridge of the Enterprise D as introductions to clips cleverly interwoven as a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. So
we'd probably get busted if we tried to play the clips, but I'll bet you if I got a hold of that thing and we just played like the live parts, I'll bet you nobody cares about that. We should do a live watch on the show, Larry.
Yeah, you could probably watch the first 5 minutes of it, which was a piece of pre-existing special effects of the Enterprise D in dry dock with Counselor Troy, Marina Sirtis doing a counselor's log, stardate 4738.1.6 or whatever it was. And then the stuff that Larry and I did, which was basically like we were on the bridge of the Enterprise with Counselor Troy in costume and makeup, and Rob Legato, the visual effects supervisor / second unit director, was directing them because we couldn't do it because we weren't in the DGA. But we were there, like basically telling them, okay, yeah, we need her walking out of the turbo lift, going over and sitting at the science station or whatever. And we basically shot all this stuff and made it, and then edited it together, and it kind of looked like a Star Trek episode.
Nice.
And we got modern. We kind of interfaced with what's his name, the guy who did all the computer readouts.
Yeah, Guy Vardaman. Brent
Spiner's
photo double also worked with Mike Okuda and Rick Sternbach in the art department.
Yeah, so Michael Okuda had to like kind of approve like star dates and make sure we were all like in the right realm, and he was like, I think he realized he had nothing to worry about when he read our star date, and he realized it was exactly where it was supposed to be in the Star Trek timeline.
That we actually cared. It wasn't just a string of numbers.
Yeah,
because it was a 5-digit one with the first one representing the season. We had all that stuff on lockdown, and they were like, oh, okay. My other favorite thing from that was when we had you were going over the shot list with Rob Legato, and he's like, oh, just come here. They're doing something. Come over here. And I'm like, oh, we're going into the captain's ready room. Well, this is going to be great. And then you like just swung your leg over the chair like Riker sat down and started telling Oscar-winning Rob Legato, like, here's what we're going to do, pal. And I was just like, this is the best day of my life, because Rick doesn't even get like how awesome this is. I bet you did later.
I how awesome it was.
I remember
we dreamed to be like
we were standing
on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Sorry. Yeah,
it's crazy.
When we were standing on the transporter pads, that's what I got it. I just like look over as my childhood buddies looking over at me. I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
I know, because they gave us a little tour of the whole set, and it was laid out just exactly like you think it is. You're in the hallways, which I think the hallways were the repurposed Star Trek the Motion Picture hallways, right?
Yeah.
It was basically the Star Trek the Motion Picture set redressed with a different bridge, and the engineering was still the same kind of like, matter, antimatter chamber, like the redressed with neon tubes and stuff. It was because, it was kind of mind blowing just to walk around on that set and actually like see that we're directing little bits of Next Generation-ness
Yeah, that was great.
Did you have LCARs? Did you have animated LCARs displays though?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we did. Yeah, and
That's
done by the art department.
Yeah, and then we went to Modern Sound, and they put all the little like
yeah.
sounds in there. And put the every time we're in the bridge, they had that woo 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 sound.
I'm kind of curious because the whole thing is on YouTube already in 3 parts.
Yeah,
but it's like the shittiest taped off TV thing ever. I got a pretty clean copy, so I wonder if
you were the one who put it on there. Did you?
No, I didn't put it up to. I don't know.
Somebody taped it on VHS and put it on YouTube because that's the only. I think you gave me a copy of it.
Yeah,
I'm so bad at keeping things that I don't have any of this stuff.
The old days from the videotape days, like all of my stuff, all my college projects and stuff, they're just like they were on such shitty archival media anyway, and then like no way to retrieve them at this point.
Right, or you'd like lose the tape, or like it would just get all bent up and decayed. It's crazy. I never told you. I don't think I ever told you. I went on the Next Generation set again a year or 2 later and shot this little piece for the Video Music Awards with a Riker and Data.
Yeah, I've seen that on YouTube. It's cool.
Is it on YouTube? Yeah, we did this packaging for the MTV Awards that was all about like channels changing to different TV shows, and then the people in the TV shows would be saying MTV things. Like, so we would just reach out to all these shows and they would like shoot a scene and say best dance video in their scene. Like, just this weird meta idea. And we had like, cause we knew the Next Generation people at that point, we were like, can we have like Data and Riker, like looking at the view screen, like there's some threat out there. And then Data analyzes the threat and says it's a best dance video. And they just said, okay. And so I went over there and shot with Riker and Data, and Brent Spiner was kind of a dick because he was like, why am I saying this? This is not funny. What if I said this funny thing that I just thought up instead? Because he thinks he's really funny. And I was like, yeah, no. Say the lines, Robot Boy.
Do you remember when we did the script for that we wrote the whole thing for Data, and he was like, right. I'm not gonna get geared up for this nonsense. And
that's right. You wrote it for Data, and then like Marina Sirtis was like, sure, I'll do it. Am I getting paid?
And that was cool. I mean, that was super challenging, actually. I really liked that part of it because it was like, all right, well, at least we know who we're writing for now.
Yeah, so we just rewrote it.
It's pretty tight. I really like that, and it was like super fun. So like, come on.
Well, we'll have a cameo clip at the end of the show for you guys, so stick around.
Wow,
tiny clip.
I heard that it's probably the best part of the whole thing, right?
It's the sexiest part.
Can I say the best part of that? I'm sure this was your idea, but you took that cool under 3/4 undershot of the Next Generation. I mean the refit Enterprise from the motion picture, and superimposed all the shots from the old Star Trek on it.
Yeah,
I cry looking at that now. That's so good.
That was just that was the teaser trailer for Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
I
just cut it off before it went to the logo. Like that whole visual was made as a teaser trailer, and I just used it. And
well, you're a hero because
put some audio on it.
That thing would have been lost to history if you hadn't done that. And now I will always have a clean clip of it. And when the internet comes down, just get to my house. We'll play it because we have the solar panels. It'll be great.
Well, okay, Rick. So we should get a little more Star Trek-y, though.
Yeah.
Did you watch season 3 of Picard? Are you?
I did. Yes.
Verdict.
I actually, I skipped about 3 episodes in the middle because I gave up on it again.
You missed nothing.
I missed nothing. It made no difference whatsoever because it became obvious, like, okay, one person from the TNG crew is going to show up every episode in some forced manner. And like, okay, I don't care about how Geordie LaForge meets up with the crew. So like, I kind of gave up on it, just like I gave up on season 2. I like just I
Honestly,
can't.
I wish there was more of the getting the band back together stuff and less of Jack Crusher
Oh yeah,
is a dangerous bad boy.
yeah, totally.
That's what most of that middle section was, just like, let's get to know and love Jack
That
Crusher.
guy, that guy who is like, I don't know who that actor is, but could he have chewed the scenery more?
Terrible.
I mean, you think, if like Picard is a Shakespearean scene chewer. I mean, that guy was trying to outdo him.
He was so handy.
Yeah.
He's trying to be the smuggling doctor, and like he's so cool on every level. Yet heart of gold. That's at the same time.
Yeah. But what I felt though was like it was obviously what everybody wants is the whole crew back together on the bridge of the old Enterprise. So tell me when we get there and I'll come back. And so like my wife kept watching. She's like, okay, they're on the Enterprise now. So I'm like, okay, I'll come back. So I ended up watching the last couple episodes. And obviously I'd missed nothing. It made complete sense. They're all come back here. They have to, it was all bullshit how Geordie like went and got the Enterprise from the museum and nobody notices. Like the museum that not one person is keeping track of the ships as they accidentally fly off into space and nobody
One
cares.
person. Geordie was that one person, and so.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But nobody else where was everybody else at that museum? You just said, I'm just going to go take the ship for a while.
I just get so upset with the whole missed opportunity of it. Like, I think I might have loved the crew getting back together 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was so full of its own kind of like reminiscence of itself.
Yeah.
That I just wanted them to come back together and do another Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. And not be sitting around like going like, isn't it great that I'm getting to see you one more time? Like
that's perfect.
We were a great crew. Like it was sad a little bit.
It was.
The whole thing made me sad. Part, like of all the crew members, he was definitely like the least interesting of the whole.
That was Picard. I thought you were doing Beverly Crusher.
Anyway. I know. I mean, it was. I enjoyed parts of it. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad they're not doing anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just ready for Strange New Worlds.
So you're ready for Strange New Worlds. Although the more I'm seeing of the trailers, the more I'm just going like,
fantastic. It's not Star Trek Discovery and it's not Picard.
Okay, but they're asking Lon.
I'll take a C+ Star Trek show at this point. I really will.
They're asking Lon Noonien Singh in court about her relation to Khan Noonien Singh. Like,
fantastic. Bring it on. It doesn't suck. It looks like Star Trek.
Yeah, like if half the episodes suck this year and half don't, that's a win.
Yeah,
it's better than the last 5 years.
Yeah, and I like and I like where they've landed on the attitude of that show, where it is completely conscious of the fact that it's a Star Trek episode, and they're making episodes and they're referencing the style of the show of the old show in super modern ways. I love the dress uniform that they have this season that is referencing the crappy old dress uniforms, but it looks modern, and like sticking the little cardboard piece of file into the computer to make it go, that like they're referencing stuff to make the people who love the old show go like, oh, that feels like old Star Trek, but it doesn't have to look like old Star Trek or slavishly follow the old Star Trek vibe, but it gets it,
Yeah. John Suntrace is like, they're doing Kirk so bad, and I agree.
Yeah,
and that's an actual plus for me, because that I really believe this is sort of like an alternate universe Star Trek, like because what they're doing doesn't make sense. Lon Noonien Singh, they talk about but it's just alternate universe where Kirk is kind of like a weasel.
A dildo.
That's fine.
I really have to like embrace that because it's hard because that guy's a weasel. He doesn't look or act like Kirk.
Well,
tell a story because he lives down by you, which is hilarious.
Is that purposeful?
Which is the weirdest thing.
Is that purposeful? Oh, sorry.
Wait. He lives where?
The dude who's from the guy. He's from Vampire Diaries. That guy, I forget his name, and he literally lives like 75 feet away from William Shatner. And William
Is that how he got the gig?
I don't know, but William Shatner tried to get the house that he bought like torn down because it messes with his view.
Oh no! Oh, now he's playing. Oh, now he's messing with his legacy.
Yeah, he bought my friend's old house, and he's a complete while he was doing Vampire Diaries, and he was so full of himself. He was like, "The hedges need to be higher because I have lots of paparazzi that stalk me."
Oh
and,
man.
And like my friend Nikki just made fun of him so hard. Yeah, Paul Wesley. Yeah. He's so miscast.
Do you think it's a conscious decision though, to as sort of a backhanded swipe at Kirk and / Shatner to like make him more douchey in this new series? Not like in retrospect, Captain Kirk from the old series, he really was kind of not so great.
Maybe it's got to be. They have to be doing it consciously because it's so obvious that
it's so shitty.
He's not acting like Kirk. He doesn't look like Kirk. He's unlikable. I mean, Chris Pine didn't look like Kirk, like Shatner, and didn't try to act like Shatner, but he had the same charm and bravado of Shatner.
There's one thing that Chris Pine has that Paul Wesley doesn't, and that Shat is a solid guy from the days when guys were solid. He has a really thick neck.
Yeah.
And Chris Pine has a thick neck, and Paul Wesley doesn't. He looks like his head is on a stick, and it's it reads wrong as Kirk.
Kirk's wrong. It looks like
Kirk's a bulldog.
It looks like a In Living Color episode where Jim Carrey is playing.
It totally does. It totally does. And yeah, I really do think John Centris agrees with me. He thinks that it's right. It's on purpose because there is that anti-Kirk backlash out there, right? They're like, this one's for you, George Takei, right? We're gonna really sock it to him.
The thing that I believe it's on purpose too, but it's because it's so opposite, right? You could not get more opposite.
Yeah.
And so maybe they're doing it for a story reason. It might be cool. Maybe they kill Jim Kirk in this thing, and George Kirk is the guy that everybody cares about.
I just think it would be a miscalculation for them to go, let's make Kirk really unlikable and awful because all the Star Trek fans today don't like William Shatner anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's like we all fucking love William Shatner.
Totally.
Right.
And we, you don't have to ape William Shatner and do the bad William Shatner acting. But at the same time, get somebody that's likable.
Maybe we've got an arc. Maybe there's an arc in mind where he learns a lesson and he becomes more Kirkish.
Rick is right. Like part of Kirk and why the character is successful in universe is because that's a charming guy.
Yeah.
And the Paul Wesley guy has not shown any charm. Yeah, there we go. Charisma, of course. That's what we're saying.
He's got charisma.
Well, wait till he starts dating Lon Noonien Singh, only to forget about. I can't get.
I'll get up to John Price levels on that part.
I cannot get past those kind of continuity things that, if they are not explicitly addressed, and like everybody forgets, or Spock gets amnesia at some point in the series, so he just does not remember any of the things that happened. Yeah, unless something like that happens, then I just go there. It literally has to be another universe because it just doesn't fit.
Can I just I need to get somebody on the phone at Paramount and say, can we just not reference Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan anymore in anything ever again? Because they're like, I think most executives are like, Star Trek, oh, I love that one. Which one was the one with Khan? Like that's the first thing they think of. Is like that one was pretty good because it was like space battles and it was like a submarine battle. Like that's as far as they got with Star Trek. So they immediately go, let's do something that references Star Trek 2 for that friggin' umpteenth time. And like, I'm sorry, Star Trek 2 is not my favorite Star Trek movie, and it never will be. and I get why it's good, but I could go for a half an hour on everything that sucks about it.
Wow,
too.
what is your favorite Star Trek movie?
Oh, can I guess? Can I guess
Go ahead.
before you say? I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with the motion picture.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
motion picture for very
'Cause it's
really
good.
for really reasons that aren't logical. And it,
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the best Star Trek movie for reasons that are logical. That's the coolest Star Trek episode ever.
I just wish that the Star Trek franchise had continued in that vein where it was big and epic, and the ship actually made sense how it was laid out, and the uniforms looked like pajamas. Let's embrace that and just make them continue to look like pajamas, but
It's
maybe
the
more
future.
colorful pajamas.
Yeah.
But like the monster maroons from that point out, like were kind of an eyesore for me. But just the low to mid budget Star Treks that came after that,
Yeah.
especially the thing that I hate most about Chris is right. Your favorite one is the best one. But the thing that I don't like about Star Trek 2 is that it forced every Star Trek after that to have a Khan-like villain.
Yeah.
At least most of them. Like, who's our Khan in this one? Let's get Christopher Lloyd from Taxi. He'll be our Khan in this one. It doesn't make, you don't have to have that.
That's making me feel a little better about it, that the movies ruin new Star Trek TV, because that's what they're doing. Everything has to be just this world-shaking thing. And they forgot that Star Trek is just thoughtful science fiction.
Yeah.
Like, there are whole episodes that are just like guys talking about whether, black on one side is better than black on the other. Like, okay, it's dumb and dopey, but it makes you consider it at whatever level. Like the old Batman show, right? The kids can go, ooh, zip bam pow, but the adults dug the satire. And Star Trek, it was the kids can be like, ooh, that guy just disappeared. That's cool. But then you consider, well, that's a pretty poignant thing on, like, old age or bigotry or whatever, And that's just completely missing from modern Star Trek.
That's why Star Trek was better on TV than it ever was in the movies, I think, for sure. And that the limitations of the budget was what made them stretch and make like just better writing.
Yeah, they could make compelling stuff that wasn't about having gigantic battles.
Can you guys vamp? Apparently, Dave has tracked our badges to my front door, so I'm going to go get it.
Construct sequence completed.
Wait, sorry guys.
What? No. Are you really going to kill Dave Porter? Let me go get the badges, man.
I hit the wrong button accidentally.
All right, I'm gonna go get them.
But unfortunately, I gotta break loose. Larry, if you want to stay on and unveil them,
yeah.
Stay on and unveil them. This isn't like you haven't started the self-destruct sequence, right? It's we're okay. Hold together.
I'm just saying. I just talked to Rick for like 2 seconds. Okay.
I'll vamp. We'll vamp.
I can continue to rant about Star Trek I hate or Star Trek I love.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's tie it in. Let's tie in Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
The current white Gladys killer whale situation.
There's something going on there.
Yeah.
I'm glad the killer whales have finally found the strength to come together. And take, they're mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore.
Totally. They saw Blackfish and they're not having it. What do you got, Larry?
Lies. It's all lies.
Nothing yet.
There's no badges
for
after
no
all
reason.
that.
All right.
You just vamped about killer whales for 42 seconds.
Boo. Okay, well, guys, I gotta get out of here. Larry, if you want to keep it going, you got the con. You can take it on if you want.
I don't know. You want to talk a little more, Rick? Just have some
I got 5 or 10 more minutes for you.
Yeah.
Finish up.
Cool.
I gotta go bail and make some
thanks,
money.
Dan.
Let me leave you on one. I've got one 17-second clip that we've played it before, and we're gonna play it again while I'm here, and then I'll be out of here by the time the clip ends. Guys, this Thursday, I'm probably talking to Tom Scioli about his I Am Stan book. He couldn't send me a copy to read, so we might delay it, but I think I'll just talk to him about Stan. That'll be fun. And then we will be back on next Tuesday for Serious Star Trek, and then again and again and again and again. And we'll see you then.
Counselor's log, final entry. The crews of both ships had much in common, and many differences. Most notably...
Counselor Troy, Captain Picard requires you on base immediately.
Acknowledged. Now what was I saying? Oh, yes.
I forgot about that. I forgot that
so.
Larry made a cameo. Did you like write a whole backstory for your character?
I never wrote it down, but in my head,
Of course that had to be you.
That's on my Internet Movie Database listing.
Is it?
Both as co-writer and
Yes.
as the voiceover of the station keeper. Oh, that was a blast.
I love how she's like, oh, yes. What was I saying?
I remember she kind of didn't want to do that line. And then there was another...
There was another one where she was... I wanted her to speak more like an American.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
That was a mistake on my part. I was like... She was like... The crew of the Enterprise D is different to the crew of the Enterprise. And I was like, isn't it? It says different from the crew of the Enterprise. And she was like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, she was pretty adamant about that.
Yeah.
That was the story I was like, because she was really kind of a dick about that.
Yeah, she was
And
like,
we were like,
oh, so you want me to
different
say something that
from?
makes no sense?
How about different than? She's like, no, it's different too.
It's different too, but if you want me to say different from, I can say things that make no sense. I'm an actor.
The other thing I loved, which I'm sure is just, it wasn't something about her, but just the situation, is that I was really impressed / horrified that when she was done for the day, like the Teamsters are clapping, like, you did a great job. Just walking out that door and saying this other thing. I just say it was interesting to me as like some yokel from back east. I'm like, well, she is performing.
Yeah.
And we are kind of her audience, but I was like, is that what we're doing? You know, it was funny.
Didn't you hang out with the Bajoran, Michelle, somebody?
Ensign Rowe. I talked to her for a while. She came over and because where we were shooting, we had the craft services table.
Yeah.
So we got to see everybody if they were at work.
Yeah.
Because you were doing the real heavy lifting. You just, you just was like, hey, come on, Larry.
I was the one
see this.
Like just poking Rob Legato going, can we shoot that again? Because that's
so I was keeping an eye. You were actually doing your job of poking Rob, right?
Yeah.
So I was keeping my eye on the food to see who came over. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm accidentally getting some carrots. Oh, I'm talking to LeVar Burton now. How's it going, man? And but when she came over, because she was a very attractive woman, and I loved her character on the show.
Yeah.
And she comes in her street clothes and two different colored Converse. I kind of remember the first time I saw her equally as the first time I saw Mimi. It's like kind of the both. It's like, oh yeah, I could have gone that way, but I went this way. And she was pleasant. LeVar was great.
Pleasant. I remember her being cool.
LeVar talked to us for a long time.
She was in this movie with Brad Pitt called California. Brad Pitt and who was Brad Pitt's girlfriend at the time in the 90s, and like the girl from Cape Fear.
Oh, Juliette Lewis?
Juliette Lewis, yeah.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's girlfriend.
I didn't know that.
She's in a movie. She's like the co-star of that movie with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Michelle Forbes. They did a pilot on Global Frequency, the Warren Ellis comic.
Oh, right.
She was the lead of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's one of those like Dennis Quaid people where it's like, my memory of you as your career is a lot better than your actual career, I think.
Yeah. I always wonder what these people do when their career is over, because so many, especially women in Hollywood, the roles dry up when you're like 35, unless you're a certain type of character actor or something. So, an attractive actress or actor like Michelle, when the roles dry up, where do you go? I
just don't understand being an actor at all, because here I have a life of rejection. You
I
know,
could never do it in a million
couldn't
years.
do
It's
it,
bad
yeah.
enough being a freelance producer where you take these meetings and then they never call you back. But imagine, 99.9% of those are like they interrupt you in the middle of your line reading and go, "Thank you." Okay,
and
there's
it's
the door.
not even as a freelance anything, right? Freelance any creative thing. It's like, well, we're going in a different direction. They just don't call you back. Something else comes in.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as personal as, no, I'm sorry, you have blonde hair. You're like, I can dye it now that we don't like
Yeah.
you. You know, that's
Yeah.
your form displeases us. Like that's your job to hear
Yeah.
that 99% of the time.
I know. There's no way you can't take it personally. I think
that's
most
not-
actors that can do it for a long time are actors that they figured out how to not take it personally. Like they walk out of the rehearsal or they walk out of the audition and go, I'm not getting that job. If they call me back, it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
But if you walk out of that going like, oh God, I hope I get this role, and then like you spend 3 weeks torturing yourself until your agent calls you back and goes, yeah, no, they didn't like you.
That's crazy, right? Just imagine everyone has the experience of looking for a job, right? And you don't get every job you apply for. So like take all that stress and then attitude that's because of how you look, or that's just gotta be
no thanks.
Yeah. and then the people who have done it, like, they've got like a mild case of self-imposed schizophrenia, right? Because the only way you can deal with that is that, well, there's me, and then there's what people see on the outside,
right?
And that's the actor, but me is okay, and me is fine with like my hair and my gut and stuff, but my actor guy really should do something about that, right? I mean, I totally get that, but wow, that would be a hard thing to live your life forever.
Yeah.
And not eating cheeseburgers, so you look like Paul Rudd when you're my age. That's crazy. Come on, Paul Rudd, you're not fooling anybody.
Completely.
Anyway, hey, I really appreciate, like, this is a super definition of last minute.
Yeah, no, I was glad I could rush back here and do it. It was fun.
And tell Grace congrats on I saw her picture graduating. Wow. That's super cool, man.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
And new shoes.
And new shoes. She earned those shoes.
Anyway.
All right.
Any more Star Trek? Because now the dance here, I can cut it off.
Is there anybody still watching?
Yeah, I bet Dave Porter's there. Show delivered and tracking. I'll figure that out, Dave. I'll send you a post.
The last thing I wanted to say was like the second Strange New Worlds trailer makes it look great. I think. I
love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm down.
Yeah, the one that reveals that Boimler and the Lower Decks crew show up. I still don't know how, but it looks great.
Well, there's a bit of a leak, and it just in that the show starts as a Lower Decks episode. There's not between this. The Strange New Worlds episode starts as a cartoon. An adventure of the Lower Decks guys, and somehow they get bamfed back to the past, and when they show up they're just humans and nobody comments on it. They're just the characters, and then it ties up and they get back to the cartoon world.
That's awesome.
I think that's genius.
It's genius, and like it's a great way also for people that aren't watching Lower Decks, like first of all, this makes me want to watch Lower Decks way more. I've watched like maybe 5 episodes of Lower Decks. I've liked them all, but like I just have sort of a animation mental block. Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
But this
I hate cartoons.
I can't. You know what ruined it for me is SpongeBob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch. Like I loved Ren and Stimpy and watching kind of adult animation stuff. Mm-hmm. And then SpongeBob kind of like fried my brain or something. And I can't like any of those kind of like half-hour episodic cartoon things. I can't figure out how to sit down and watch.
My thing is actually Star Trek related because I was a kid, and of course I liked Speed Racer and Space Ghost and the Hercules. I had no problem with cartoons. And then we moved to Vermont, and that summer we lived in Castleton, so I didn't know anybody. Oh, yeah. So I got to watch cartoons all Saturday. Kill a box of Captain Crunch or something, and Star Trek's on. Wow,
Yeah.
this is cool. This cartoon is fantastic. It's the best thing ever. And then like after a couple months, my dad has some buddy over. They're cutting trees down or something, and then I start talking about Star Trek cartoon, and his pal goes, that's a real show. He's like, what? Like, oh, the cartoon is like based on a show. The guys walking around and fighting, robots and stuff. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it's on PIX, 6:00. Don't watch the news, watch Star Trek. And my dad's like, stop talking to my kid. I can see you ruining his life. and I did. And I'm like, that killed all cartoons for me. It made me prefer live action over cartoons.
Wow. I
But
never
all
knew.
of that said, my whole life, Lower Decks is the best new Star Trek in the last 20 years. It is fantastic.
That's a bold statement.
I know.
But I was so wary of them doing a Lower Decks, doing a show, any kind of cartoon about Star Trek that was like looking like it's trying to be The Simpsons or something. But I feel like they nailed it, because the people who write it obviously have a love of Star Trek and are sneaking in all kinds of Star Trek-ness into the show,
The thing that's great is not just that they're sneaking Star Trek into it. It's just this is Star Trek. It's a completely believable setup, completely believable crew. It's just these are the B team. These are the fuck ups that aren't on the big shot. And once you get that straight and realize that not just the ship is the B team, but these are the guys that are the lowest rung on the totem belt in kind of the sucky crew anyway. That so much that they just sleep out in the hallway, right? I was like, if they don't do those hallway beds in the corridors in live action, I'm going to be so sad. Right? Chris said the Spock helmet. They made. Do you know the
Spock helmet? Yeah,
random toy. They made that legit. That thing's canon now.
It's canon, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that episode, but I read about that. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Anyway. Yeah, Lower Decks. Watch it. It's awesome. I have a Lower Decks out.
You may watch it tonight.
Should have worn that today. There's one that's just Mimi thought it was charming, and Walker loved it. He'll watch it with me. But there's one episode that goes like way too far into Mugatu sex masturbation jokes, and Mimi was like, "We're dying laughing because we're both teenage boys, obviously," and she's like, "What the fuck is this?" She was like. She pulled out the like swearing like a sailor for real. She couldn't believe it. Like this charming Star Trek cartoon with the wacky jokes is like full on white albino monkey unicorn jacking off jokes. Really? Anyway, yeah. Even Saga goes, I wouldn't let my niece watch that one. But apparently that's canon too. So whenever people, the real Star Trek nerds, are like, "Oh, that's a real thing. That's canon," I just start laughing now. It's canon. We go to St. Dominic's Church. They crack a Bible. They say Jesus did some stuff with a fish. That's canon.
Right.
Like Star Trek TV shows, come on.
Yeah, the whole like canon kind of obsession with Star Trek and even more with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Has become it's belabored. Maybe
I agree. It's a little unsupportable, right? Once you start going so far up in your own ass to like, what kind of toothpick did somebody use to scratch a bantha's cavity out or something? It's like that was roundly rejected in the comic book number 27. That starts to not be fun anymore.
Yeah, it's fun when you see something that's a reference to another episode or another something, and they've cleverly worked it in and it makes sense in that episode. Like, it's always fun to go like, oh, that's cool because it relates to that other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when it becomes like the canon police, people have appointed themselves canon police, and like the first thing that anybody wants to talk about is how they violated canon here or there or the other thing, and it becomes basically what fandom has become for a lot of people, which is just like let's rip the shit out of this Star Wars project because it's not like what we remembered it being or how we fantasized we would have made Star Wars if somebody had handed us a bunch of money to make Star Wars.
I just want, my thing is I want it to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then you've failed, right? Because that's job one, to please an audience. Here's an entertaining story from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And I'm not like precluding surreality. It can also not make sense, but that's its point, right? But I mean that you have to understand what you're watching. And if you're just throwing references and Easter eggs without understanding what you're referencing to, then it's just like a jumbled nonsense that all the stuff fell out of the Star Trek box. And that's the feeling I get from the guys in charge, that they don't understand why it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so here, then you get Lon Noonien Singh, and it's hyphenated, like her parents were Noonien and Singh. But I don't understand the Indian caste thing. But Singh is like a family name, right? And then his name was, I don't know. It does.
Yeah.
It's not hyphenated as an English major. That's all I know.
Right.
It's 3 names, not 2.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So maybe they do that because, and everybody knows that she's defending herself as a member of that family from the eugenics wars in 1996. That has to be a different universe because of what happened in Spacey.
Right.
Right? They didn't know. They were like, who's this guy? And the Enterprise history LCARS kind of had spotty information because of it. But 10 years before everybody knows who this is? Really?
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like having these conversations, because I could talk for half an hour about that.
I like her as a character, and I kind of don't care that she's you know, I kind of like that she's a bit of a hard ass, and she's the one that's always calling Pike out on for being too kind of like chummy with everybody. You know what I mean? I do a bit of a foil for somebody to go like, do you really want to do that? You know, like I like that about her.
That's breakout fave character. She's great. She is. She's one of the best new ones. But my favorite breakout is Ortegas.
Yeah,
because she is finally in a new Star Trek thing from the last 5 years. Finally, there's somebody who's fucking just happy to be there.
Yeah,
because that's all I want as a Star Trek fan. If somebody said you get to go live in the Federation 300 years from now, like I'd leave tomorrow if I didn't have to have a conversation with Mimi, right? And that's all anybody watching the show. You want to be part of it. That's why you buy the shirts. That's why you buy action figures, do the models, right? And they don't get that. Let's have everybody mad and depressed, because that's how my therapist told me I should deal with this. You know, it's like, no, don't screw up Star Trek because you had a bad childhood. Give us, punching robots. And
I really love her as a character. Yeah, she's sort of like our eyes into the bridge, And, you know what I mean? Like like, oh, we get to sit and drive the Enterprise because she is, or and I also love that she, that poor, sort of rooting for her because her husband died.
Yeah,
I believe between season 1 and season 2, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that makes me actually love her the most, because that was her job that she did spectacularly well and made us all fall in love with her while that was going on in real life.
Yeah,
that's heroic, man.
And a lot of people might have been like, I'm devastated. I can't do this show anymore. I can't come back for season 2.
Sure.
Write my character out for the first 6 episodes or whatever. And she's like, don't worry about me. I'm showing up day 1 and doing my job.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's all right in my book.
All right. Well, that's a great place to go. That's a nice positive thing about the new Star Trek.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. I
am too.
Boimler had a little Spock fanboy moment. How do you get mad at that second trailer? That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it was a great end to that trailer. I love it. I'm excited, and I'm sure there'll be plenty to get mad about in this season. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to go like, that sucked, that episode sucked, that one, the Gorn don't look like that, or whatever,
Yeah.
But there's so much to love about what's going on in that show. that
I agree. I could not agree
that
more.
I'm just gonna. This is how I treat Star Wars. You know, I'll sit. I can sit and watch Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, and enjoy things in all of them. And I'm not going to sit and just like be mad at everything all day. You know,
I don't get this. I don't get
Yeah.
the Star Wars problem. I love all Star Wars at all times. There's some that are better than others.
Yeah,
That's cool. But like, oh geez, Ryan Johnson ruined Star Wars. Really? You're out of your
everybody's
mind.
always running Star Wars. George Lucas ruined Star Wars.
Yeah, fire Kathleen Kennedy. She's living.
Now
Star
Kathleen
Wars.
Kennedy's running Star Wars, and now she's running Indiana Jones, and it's like
I don't know.
Chris is, if he's still watching, I know that he's going to go to Indiana Jones and try to like it, and that's what I'm going to try to do.
No, I'm gonna love it. It's come on, Indiana Jones and the space race. That's gonna be awesome. The ticker tape parade is for Neil.
I feel like you and I have had this. We've had this conversation about 500 times in our lives, where I'm like, I'm going to like it if it's good, and you're going to like, how can you not like a thing that's got the thing in it? I'm like, well, it could be a thing that's got the thing in it and also suck.
That's the level of critical thinking you get when you talk to me, though. If it's got bikinis and spacesuits in it, I'm good. That's just the way I say I'll find something good to like in it too.
Yeah,
like,
true.
It's not just Star Wars, but like everything. You know, like I can watch the crappiest movie, but if it's got a great soundtrack, I'll just like, all right, man, I'm grooving on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Or there'll be some character that's like not really part of the narrative. It's like comedy relief or an expository character. And I'll just like focus on that guy. It's just you can always find something to like.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for spending another half hour.
Yeah, it was fun.
And Star Trek.
Hey, any end animation, or just everything just dies now?
Yeah, since Dan left, I can just do the end broadcast. But I was just thinking, I'm not used to this hosting thing, but super comfortable because you're my oldest friend. So do the whole. Dan would want me for you to have Hollywood Big Shot, Rick Austin do the like. Well, I set you up with like, hey, we'll see you next time, and you say on the internet. Right?
On the now.
How about, hey Rick? We're gonna be back next week for Serious Star Trek, but I gotta forget where can you catch this legendary show?
On the internet.
Thanks, man.